recently the Israeli, I don't know if you know this, but the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs has put me in the top 4 most anti-Semitic people in the whole of Canada. This is a place that has functioning neo-Nazi groups, but I was put on that list. So it does, they target really, really awfully.
That is so, I mean, who are the other three?
Ministry of Diaspora Affairs.
Yeah, so do you know this ministry?
No, I didn't know
So
about
this
it. It's crazy.
ministry-
What a crazy name.
This ministry is the same ministry that in June of 2024, a New York Times investigation showed paid $2 million to a Tel Aviv marketing agency called Stoic to create hundreds of fake social media accounts to target people online and target U.S. black lawmakers.
Yes.
To toe the Israeli war machine's line. So they're not a very sort of, well-esteemed ministry.
And what does that even have to do with the diaspora? I mean, first of all, it's fucked up that there would even be one, even if it did what the name says, which would be like, we're going to manage all the people who are unquestionably loyal to us all over the world and who make our war crimes possible. But now it's just about managing it, like it's the minister of externalities. It's like everything outside of here, we're managing. Ministry of the world. I don't know. Nothing cabal-like about that.
Yeah, I like the idea that the diaspora they're referring to is literally everyone else who exists. It's like, what's going on in the diaspora? It's like 6.8 billion people. You mean
this meeting of the Ministry of Managing Everything Outside the Wall will now come to order?
Yeah. Just call it the fucking protocols. Like these guys are they're just trying to mimic as best as they can, like freaking early 20th century anti-Semitic screeds. They're just like, let's just do that. Sounds like a good idea, actually. But yeah, so you have been attacked by this ministry. You've been put
top 4, baby.
Top 4 is pretty sick. Like, were you a little jealous of the other 3? Like, what the fuck?
Well, they didn't number us like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, okay.
It's just top 4. And the things that they pointed out, if you go to, it's a 12-page PDF. I'm on page 8. Okay. And it looks like it was put together by like a C- high school student. Mm-hmm. And the things that they point out where they call me anti-Semitic are a quote from that Israeli podcast, Two Nice Jewish Boys.
Famously nice podcast.
What did you say? Please don't.
No, I just quoted them. Just quoted them. I didn't even say anything. I just quoted them, and I said Radio Rwanda.
Yeah.
Then, for those who get that, right? And then the second thing is a photo of me, and I think I can't remember the second thing.
Was it you trying Sabra hummus and going, ugh?
No, and it wasn't chocolate hummus either. It was... I can't remember.
Was it you calling Gal Gadot mid?
No. No, it was something really
this lesbian
ridiculous.
Does not even appreciate.
It was like a
feminine
lesby
beauty.
for Hesby. No.
Lesby for Hesby.
That was something I was recently called. I loved it. Lesby for Hesby. I can't remember. It's ridiculous anyways. Yeah. But the point is that it's not in any way anti-Semitic or even like remotely anti-Semitic, Yeah. And so...
Probably coming on this podcast is the most anti-Semitic thing you've ever done.
Probably. Yeah. I'm going to get really dunked for this. But the other 4 people were an Ontario member of the provincial parliament who's been calling for ceasefire and dared to wear a keffiyeh inside the legislature. Her name is Sarah Jabba. Another person that used to work for the Ontario government or did contracting work, and then and then a real estate agent who I forget his name, who again was quoting people. So it's a ridiculous list, but all to say that this has now spread everywhere, and it took about a couple of weeks for one Canadian media rights organization to reach out to me to actually cover this, right? No one else would touch it.
And how were they how were they covering it?
They just got the bare bones from me, and they said, this is very concerning. So they condemned it. This is the Canada Freedom, Canada Press Freedom Project, which is tied to.
I thought you were going to say the Canada Land podcast. Such intrepid supporters of press freedom and
Palestinian rights.
And Palestinian rights.
No, Jesse hasn't been on this one. But yeah, I mean, it's another way of showing the chilling effect of this, right? People are so fucking scared. They're so shaking in their boots of having themselves be sort of mentioned as being anti-Semitic, right? The scary thing about this, because I'm somebody who studied genocide studies, is that anti-Semitism is real. But the way Israel has conducted itself in the past year, they have made a mockery of anti-Semitism. And that's really fucking dangerous,
Yeah. No, I mean, that's exactly right. They've made it possible for people to say things like anti-Semitism isn't real. And have a leg to stand on, because all they ever hear about that's in terms of anti-Semitism is just criticism of Israel. And so that they just naturally come to the conclusion that it is just, like it's a smokescreen for, trying to penalize people who are critical of Israel, and that it's not a real thing, which is incredibly dangerous.
And there are genuine anti-Semites out there sharing ostensibly pro-Palestine content, but these are not the accounts that upset the Zionists.
No, and they don't get on their lists, right? They don't get on their list. But just to come back to what Daniel was saying about the environment here in Canada, like on November 7th, the UN Special Rapporteur, Francesca Albanese, is coming here. And CIJA, who is the Center for Israeli Jewish Affairs here in Canada, went into Parliament and gave a speech saying they want Canada to strip her of her diplomatic immunity because they're thinking of pressing charges against her for hate. So this is the level of insanity that we're dealing here with in Canada.
Absolutely crazy. So, Samira, you are, correct me if I'm wrong, you are someone who is Iranian. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Sick. Now, a lot of what I've noticed in the past year with regard to people who are both Iranian and critics of Israel is that you're not only attacked by, these run-of-the-mill Israeli Hezbollah or, Jewish American or Jewish Canadian Hezbollah or, Zionist institutions, but also by a very new to me specific brand of Iranian diaspora who are have taken it upon themselves to be pro-Israel and in favor of war with Iran. Essentially,
it's a new Persian version.
Yeah,
it's
they're more Catholic than the Pope, or more Jewish than. Yeah.
And you being gay, it completes the trifecta for them. I mean, how could you, right?
Yeah. So have you been in the crosshairs of some of these people?
Ooh, big time.
Yeah.
How far back does this go? What is this unholy alliance of Iranian? Because it seems to be a kind of any enemy of their enemy is their friend. And so
I have to tell you that I don't know if people know this, but the IDF has a Farsi page.
Does it?
On Instagram.
That's great.
You have to follow it. I'm obsessed with it. And the propaganda that they put towards Iranians in the diaspora and inside the country is really effective. Very, very effective. And the way that it's framed is that Jews and Iranians have thousands of year-old relationship. It goes back to King Cyrus, who freed the Jews. Streets in Israel are named after Cyrus. So that is sort of how it's framed, right?
Yeah.
And it's very anti-Muslim.
Yes.
Which, if you don't know, sort of, Iranians live under an Islamic republic. It is a theocracy. And the government in Iran, last time they did a huge poll, not the government, but this this polling agency in Holland. They have about 20% of the trust of the population in Iran. I'm no fan of the Iranian government, but I also
20% is pretty good for a theocracy.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. You don't need 10% to.
No, and when you have all the guns and everything else, that you're good to go. However, the other thing that gets coupled in here is that when the revolution happened in 1979, the first person who came to visit Khomeini was Yasser Arafat. And so there is this photo of Arafat embracing Khomeini. He's like nuzzled right in Khomeini's neck.
I love this.
And that is what has stayed in the minds of Iranians, right? So I always explain it like this, that Iranians are taking out their mullah trauma onto the Palestinians, right? They blame the Palestinians for everything because Iranians don't like to take responsibility for fucking up their own country. We either blame the US, the Brits, or the Palestinians. It wasn't the million or so Iranians who were on the streets yelling death to the Shah, right? Wasn't us. So that's sort of the framework in which Israel pushes this propaganda and says, you know, your government doesn't care about you. We care about you. You know, we're not going to come and fucking bomb you into oblivion. And so you have a lot of these Iranians who, the moment you're critical of Israel, will say you support the mullahs, right? That's the binary. You know, and that
you mentioned an anti-Muslim sentiment. There's also adjacent to that anti-Arab, right?
Oh, absolutely. In Iran, the two go together. That's in their brains. That's
because quite literally, you know, Iran is not an Arab country. It's a Muslim country, but it's not Arab.
Exactly.
And what is that dynamic? What is that attitude towards?
So the idea
Arabness?
is it's dirty nationalism, right? I mean, if you want to look at it, it's a very perverse form of nationalism to say we are Persians. So it's a very Persian chauvinistic, you know. Iran actually has a lot of Arabs living in the south, right? In Khuzestan and those areas, we have 10% of our population is Arab. Yeah. So they get shat on. And then, you know, the focus is on Persian Jews, Persian Christians, Assyrians. You know, Iran is actually a very multicultural, multilingual, multi-religious country. But these chauvinists, who make up about 45%, Persians are about 45% of the population in Iran, they are stuck in 1400 years ago when the Arabs came and invaded Iran, right? And they Arabized our culture and they took our language and blah, blah, blah. So they are sort of stuck in that time period. And that's basically what it is, right? It really is a very ugly form of nationalism.
Thank you so much for watching that. Please like and subscribe, and please support us, patreon.com/badhasbara, or go to badhasbara.com.